CrossPolitic begins in 3, 2, 1.
Have a heart that breaks for a dying city.
Stop cursing your future.
Is not true.
For all intents and purposes, I am a woman.
No government, no political system has ultimate supremacy. Jesus is King of Kings, and it's about time our nation return in humble submission to his lordship.
You are not protecting women. You are authorizing the destruction of 500,000 little women every year.
I didn't start it. But sir, with all due respect, that's the argument of a 5-year-old. I didn't start it.
Right, when the Spirit comes upon people, they go to war, they go to battle, and the enemies of God are driven back and they're slaughtered.
You are listening to CrossPolitic with Gabe Wrench, the Waterboy, Pastor Toby Sumter, and the Chocolate Knox.
Hello, y'all. Welcome to CrossPolitic. It is Friday for us. Oh, man. It's been a long week for me. That's for sure.
It's also June.
It's already.
It's June.
You almost lost where we were.
I almost did. I'm like, what am I doing?
Hearing the intro music. Like,
check out our blog, buy our merch, follow us on Twitter, go to Facebook, contact us.
Hey, let's just slow down with some of those. Like, just follow us on Twitter.
Yeah. Side effects may
like
include
us on Facebook.
Heart palpitations, drooling, a twitchy eye.
I do have salt in my Corona.
What's in this Corona outside? Oh, you know what? It's the lime. You're missing the lime. That's why you're off.
Hey, you know what's going on? Juan is killing my internet right now.
So who is Juan?
Juan is our Korean buddy, our Korean Presbyterian buddy. Did I just name it and claim it?
Yeah, there we go.
From Atlanta.
From Atlanta, Georgia.
It's good to have him here in the studio with us.
Yeah.
Since nobody can hear him.
Right.
Yeah.
We didn't give him a mic.
We don't want him talking. We don't want him talking. We just want him working. Get to work, Juan. Do stuff. Hurry.
So there's kind of a lot that's been going on in the news this last week.
No.
In the world?
Yes, in the whole wide world.
Well, I went camping, for example.
Ooh.
Oh, hey, how was that?
I did. I went camping.
Did you have a mattress?
Came back alive.
That's when I go camping. When I got a mattress.
Yeah. Well, that's what you guys told me to do that. You said to come back and make sure that I was alive.
Yes.
That's right.
Right?
And you came back on time.
I came back, and here I am. Good. I was even here a couple minutes early.
You were. That's right.
we went to Farragut State Park. It's the very southern tip of Lake Pend Oreille.
Oh, yeah.
And it's I think it's the deepest lake in Idaho.
Okay.
And so deep that they actually used to test submarines during World War II in the lake.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You guys go camping by yourself? Like just the Sumters?
No, we went with the Apples, actually. We
okay.
went with the other pastor at
Trinity. This is a pastor. This is an elders camping
meeting. Pastor's retreat. Right. Oh, it was awesome. We, marshmallows, swimming, sunburn.
Sunburn. Yeah, I don't know anything about that.
Squirrels eating our food while we were away for
God's
a little while.
Provision, brother. God's provision.
Right. God, they were pretty. It was fun.
Yeah,
it was good.
I'm not going camping.
You're not?
No.
No. They don't camp in Minnesota.
Too many trees.
Minnesota?
No.
Too many trees.
No, there's no mattress.
No, it's not that.
That's my problem.
I don't trust.
The problem for me is there's no mattress.
No. You don't see brothers out there camping in Idaho
or snowboarding.
All these trees around or snowboarding for that matter. Nah, we're good. We're past it as we go to a city.
I think it would be so fun to take you camping.
Yeah, I don't know how you mean that.
So the last day, I'm going to get back to that in a second, but the last day, one of the days actually, the Apples, Mr. and Mrs. needed to go run into town for something, and so we took the kids, most of them, and so they've got 6 and we got 4, and they took the little one, so we had 9 kids that were riding in the back. We took them down to the lake. They went swimming. They were right in the back of the truck, and we had this car, this SUV is coming up behind us, and he honks and like kind of waves, and so I slow down, and he gets out of the car and says, "Can I take a picture?"
What?
Of all the kids in the back of the car?
9 little kids in the back of his truck.
There you go.
They were like, sure, but I was thinking maybe, if we took you camping. maybe.
He'll be taking pictures. I can't believe it.
There's a black guy in northern Idaho.
There's a black dude in the country.
Camping.
Baby, come look at this. Certified. No.
Can I take a picture?
No, you can't. I don't want anybody to know that I did this.
Awesome.
No.
That's great.
It wouldn't go down well with
evidence whatsoever
with other folks.
No.
your family would
Well,
never.
I might want to take a picture and let them know I was here.
Right.
You know, somebody tell the story.
Great grandpappy.
Whatever happened to the Shannons? Well, they went camping.
You would believe this.
It's this big lake where submarines used to be at, and I think they're there now. Yeah, we don't do camping.
There's no submarines and no black people.
Well, there's probably black people, but there ain't no submarines.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Well, let's hop over to some CrossPolitic news. I think kind of one of the big things that's gone on at least this last 2 days is the Paris agreement.
The Paris Treaty.
The Paris, not treaty.
I know.
Paris
Did you
agreement.
See some of the people were calling it the Paris Treaty.
Yes.
Yeah, I think I have seen
because
that.
a Paris Treaty requires 2/3 of Congress to ratify the
right.
President's signature.
Well,
Right.
Well, there was some tenured professor at some university that was tweeting about it, and they referenced the Paris Treaty of whatever 1789.
Oh, right.
At the end, and they were really bummed that we had pulled out of that.
Oh, well. If that's what he thinks it is.
And he was a university instructor?
Yeah, and it was from Ted Cruz's alma mater. And Ted was like, actually,
this is an agreement,
Hey,
not a treaty.
He had a bluff. He made a foo-foo. That was a bad move.
Okay, he made a confefe.
Confefe.
Oh man, what is that, by the way?
So Trump tweeted out, was it like late this week, one night, probably right before he went to bed. He tweeted out something, and then the last word was confefe. CONFEFE.
COVFEFE.
COV.
Covefe.
Covefe. And like he either just wrote something, misspelled it, or fell asleep in the middle of his tweet and then hit tweet and then it went out on the internet, and then he deleted it when he woke up the next morning.
Why everybody acting like they don't know how spell check works?
He deleted it?
And then he
late.
follows up with a tweet and says, I bet the internet wants to know what the word confefe means, or something like that.
Yes. Yes, we do.
And that's all he said.
That's all he said.
Yeah. So anyways.
Oh, that's hilarious.
So the Paris Agreement. So let me start here with this clip here, if it works smoothly.
Citizens, and we want fair treatment for our taxpayers.
Oh, I'm glad
we
you
don't
said
want other leaders and other countries laughing at us anymore, and they won't be. They won't be.
Well,
I was elected to represent the citizens of Pittsburgh, not Paris.
Even though I said this to Chalk earlier, even though Pittsburgh voted 80% for Hillary Clinton.
Hey, federal headship, man.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Hey, that doesn't matter. This is who you get, Pittsburgh.
Right.
You know.
So you got to remember. So this is it's a Paris Agreement. It's not a treaty.
So what is the agreement?
The agreement is that we would pay in, I think, $3 billion, and then we would commit ourselves. I think over I forget how many years, over like 5 years, something like that, and then we'd commit ourselves to certain carbon emission standards. We'll reduce our carbon emission standards by X amount.
And Obama signed this?
Obama signed it.
Great.
But it's an agreement, which means that it's not particularly binding.
It's not binding to anybody. So it's like, hey, we'll all do this.
But Obama signed it on behalf of America.
And we're going to give money.
As sort of, and we for sure will give money.
We will give money.
$3 billion, right?
At least
$3 billion.
At least $3 billion.
And a whole bunch of standards and regulations.
Right. Yeah. That we've just of our own accord agreed to do with no binding. So that means if America follows through,
right,
and then another country doesn't, there's just no reason for another country to actually stay committed to this. But the money goes towards other countries to help them reduce their carbon emissions. India, there's one other country. There's 3 countries where the money was going to go towards.
What, are you going to kill all their cows or something? How are we going to help them reduce their carbon emissions?
Yeah, well, I'm not done yet. And then Russia and China, they didn't agree to reduce any emissions.
Well, that's because they're bosses.
That's right. Well, what's hilarious is they're on the Paris Agreement, and they
signed up to get American money.
We are maybe
like, yes, you can write us checks.
Free American money.
We agree to this.
But here's the play: is like all these other countries want Russia and China onto this because it gives weight to the agreement. Even though Russia and China don't commit to any reducing any emission standards.
But this is like a big show.
Yeah.
Right. It's committing America to certain things, again, in a sort of weird non-binding way.
In an unfair agreement also.
Sure. But your president signed it.
He signed the agreement.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, Obama signed it.
Yep.
He said we would do it.
Democratic agreement
to pay us $3 billion.
Well, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I'm in.
Can presidents just do that?
I don't know.
I mean,
he can do it with foreign countries,
right? Like, I'm just going to give you $3 billion.
So everybody's upset because Trump is saying, "We're not going to do that. We're not doing it."
Yeah. So we're out.
So Trump pulls out of the agreement, and you got to remember, if we're going to agree to certain carbon standards, reducing whatever CO2, however they measure that in the first place, anyways. Like, your country is producing X amount of carbon emissions, and we want you guys to reduce it by this.
Yeah.
How do they measure that?
Ask Al Gore.
Yeah.
That's
he invented the internet and carbon emissions.
That's right. He's the guy that gets to lay down his 10 commandments on emissions, right? So, I don't know.
Right. And so, but we're going to commit to reduce to certain X amount of carbon emissions, which actually would directly affect our jobs and our economy. So
there's certain kinds of businesses that create more carbon.
Well, so you
emissions.
reduce oil output and maybe increase wind energy.
Oh man. You know what I hate?
Yeah.
Windmills.
I know. I'm going to start a company in 20 years and make money going around and taking them down for people. Yeah, because they're going to want to get rid of them.
See, that's post-mill because you're assuming automatically
we're going to be done with them.
You're going to be done with them.
Well, look, just go to California.
Yeah.
Go to California.
My wife calls them the aliens.
Seriously. Last 2 years we've gone down to California and we're doing the drive over from Modesto to the Bay Area to San Francisco.
Yep.
And you go over that little highway and there's just it's disgusting.
Windmill farm.
Like as I'm driving and they're like rusting, like they look gross, but it feels to me like a really bad rash. Like I have that kind of like visceral reaction to seeing all of them as like crawling all over the hills.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's just
and it's been proven that they basically the energy that they accumulate is what it takes to run them. They hardly give you any value whatsoever.
Right.
So something to that. So basically, a wind turbine costs about 14 cents, 15 cents, 17 cents per kilowatt to produce electricity. We live in the Northwest. We got dams around us, so we got some hydro electricity, and it's about 3 cents a kilowatt to produce electricity from a dam. So we're 5 times, 6 times per kilowatt to install wind turbines in our area. So it's hugely inefficient, at least for us in the Northwest.
Right.
And then on top of that, in California, what's funny about California is they put a bunch of wind turbines around outside the Bay Area up on the hills. Right. Well, they've been killing a lot of their what they'd probably call precious birds. A lot of their and so it has an environmental impact.
Yeah. Imagine that.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but this is all, guys. This is a religion.
So
the problem is that we don't believe.
That's right.
Right. If you believe, then you will be blessed.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what's going on here.
Blessings and cursings. Come on, preach.
So you gotta believe in it, and once you believe in it, then you'll get blessed. But you have to believe in it for a long time, and you have to be willing to sacrifice, your convenience. You gotta be willing to, because it's gonna take a while for us to figure out how to do it well and this kind of thing. But we gotta believe.
Right.
It's a faith thing.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing with the CO2 emissions thing, right? It's just
the CO2 thing cracks me up because Pastor Wilson pointed this out earlier today, where we all produce CO2, we all breathe out CO2, and the plants and the trees need CO2 to be green.
Right.
So how did we get to this point where we think CO2 is bad for the environment when they actually need CO2? When our plants, our trees, our grass, all our environment around us,
it's too much of
it,
Gabe.
Right.
It's too much.
Can you hold your breath?
Too much.
Stop it.
Just
stop
breathing.
Stop, please.
Which is probably what they're really after. Like everything, all this religion is about death. Right. When you hate God, it produces death.
You love death.
You love death. So no wonder why their birds are dying. Our birds are dying.
Now the actual whatever hypothesis, of course, is that it's doing something to the ozone, right? That there's like CO2 in the O2.
Right.
In the ozone. I don't know my chemical reactions.
Gabe does. He talked about that in junior high.
Did he?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. But isn't there a hypothesis that a certain amount of CO2 in the atmosphere is breaking down the ozone layer, and that is creating
that was also the same hypothesis under global cooling.
Right.
You remember that?
Right.
Yep.
The whole ozone. Right. Let me add this. Let me play some another little interview here. We're going to skip around for a second.
Climate deal. Senator, thanks so much for joining us. We anticipate that President Trump is going to announce not only that he's withdrawing, but that he does want to have a better climate deal. What might a better climate deal look like?
Well, first, you wouldn't lose 6 million American jobs. I think one of the reasons President Trump was elected is that he promised that he would defend the American worker and defend American jobs. There are estimates that this agreement, which is unfair and punishes America in a much greater fashion than other countries, that we would lose 6.5 million jobs. Meanwhile, countries like India and countries like Iran, we would have to pay them to reduce their carbon emissions. I can't imagine a worse agreement than this thing for the American worker.
You know how they budget money.
Right.
They love using the money to.
Hey, guess what? I got a good idea to give Iran more money.
Yeah, that's what they need.
Right.
The Paris Agreement.
That's actually, there's
all reduce it at all.
Senator Rand Paul, right?
Yeah, that's Senator Rand Paul. Yeah. Let's pick this up.
We should. Well, I don't know if anybody can tell you right offhand the number. I can say we should try to constrain pollution. We should try to control pollution. And I think we have been doing that for 50 or 60 years or longer.
So I think that's a good point that he brings up. Industry it does get more efficient over time. It does start off in a certain place and gets more efficient over time. I mean, you think of, the Ford car, the Ford, Model A, Model T. Those cars, the manufacturing lines were super inefficient.
Right.
The production was super inefficient.
Right. How many miles per gallon? The ride was uncomfortable.
They can still do a better job on the miles per gallon if you're asking me.
Right.
I want 120 miles per gallon. I'm just saying.
More batteries.
Still with the power, But
so, no, I forgot where I was going with all that because you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just saying. I'm agreeing with you. No, I'm agreeing with you. I'm saying they production and everything has gotten better as time has gone on. I think
and the way industry actually produces and how they let pollution out into the environment, they get more efficient over time.
And people who care about what they're making and doing actually care about whether they can get better at it. Right? I mean, like the poster child for the greedy capitalist.
Yep.
Who's just, dumping waste into streams and killing fish and doesn't care about anything, any of the ramifications.
Which is what the EPA did 2 years ago in Colorado. Remember that? The EPA dumped massive sewage into the Colorado rivers.
Right. I'm just saying those people, though, don't actually. So EPA is EPA, and but like those caricatures of the big bad businessman, business boogeyman.
Yep.
They don't make it. That's
right.
It's not sustainable.
That's right.
I'll use a loaded word. It's not sustainable.
Yeah.
But actually, good business practices are the only thing that are sustainable, and in fact, it becomes more sustainable the more efficient you are.
Yeah. And whose standard? Whose standard is this? Like, who said it? So who said we should be taking care of the planet? It's not arbitrary.
God.
I guess this is God's standard. He told us to be good stewards, right?
Amen.
So, more CrossPolitic when we come back. Little Kathy Griffin. See if she's funny. I doubt it. More CrossPolitic next.
For 21 years and counting, New St. Andrews College has sought to obey Christ's Great Commission to disciple nations and build him a house. Not just in Jerusalem, but throughout the world. Not with stones and mortar, but with living stones. We build and fight. This is the task of a Christian liberal arts college, to equip students with the tools to build and fight. And this is our joyful task as we seek to graduate leaders who shape culture through wise and victorious living. To learn more, check us out online at nsa.edu/explore.
This September, you are invited to New St. Andrews College Wordsmithy 2017 Workshop for Writers, where good writers go to get better. This year's lineup includes Douglas Wilson, Ndee Wilson, and Aaron Wrench, along with special guest Doug TenApel. Doug TenApel is the author and illustrator of such acclaimed graphic novels as Newts, Tommysaurus Rex, Ghostopolis, and Cardboard, as well as the creator of the popular character Earthworm Jim. You're going to want to register right away, September 20th and 21st and 22nd. This includes evening sessions with these writers, shared meals, as well as multiple workshops on learning to write well. This is in Moscow, Idaho at New St. Andrews College. Register at nsa.edu.
Do it with me, Gabe. Do it with me.
Hey!
There we go. A boom, 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 boom.
Welcome back to CrossPolitic. If you're out there listening, help! And this segment is brought to you by our Korean friend named Juan.
Hey, Juan.
Hey, man.
No, not in front of a guest, Gabe.
And Corona Extra.
Is that your Korean accent?
That's how it came out.
The only accent he
That's
has.
how it came
David.
out.
You know that. That's the only accent he has.
Bad Gabe.
Oh man.
Yeah, I was told, that that he even used that accent to impersonate me when I was gone. Didn't you say that he was trying to impersonate me? And
he did try to impersonate you, but I don't think he used.
But it wasn't
Yaman.
the Yaman. It wasn't the Jamaican. I was actually
politic. He was hitting all your consonants that you like to hit.
There you go.
Oh yeah. Hey, those are some good consonants. if I do say so myself.
It's you. It's you. You're being you.
Hey, so nothing else happened this week, right? I mean, that was it.
Yeah.
I mean, we can just do something, happy and fun.
We have the Paris agreement and the Kathy agreement.
Oh no!
If the Kathy agreement is she doesn't get to try and make jokes anymore, then I'm with that.
Oh man,
who's Kathy?
So Kathy Griffin is a comedian. She's got popular from I think the C-List is really like the big show she did. Where
is it okay if I've never heard of her?
You know what? You're probably a blessed man having not ever heard of her. The problem is this past week she came out and she took a picture with a photographer of the head of Trump with blood coming out of his eyes.
And this is like a very intentional shooting.
Yeah, it's very intentional.
Like
probably
they thought about it.
Yeah,
they talked about it. They went to his studio, set the lights up, had a head cut off of that looked like Trump, put blood all over it. I mean, it was very intentional.
Yeah, it looked like
this wasn't some random act that just happened.
Honestly,
right?
you could have replaced Kathy
Spur of the
with
moment.
A Muslim zealot.
I was going to say, that sounds like something from ISIS.
It would have completely been like, oh, yeah, I can totally see why they did that. But then when you put Kathy Griffin there, it's like, whoa, what is... And so she's got a lot of flack from it. And right away, I don't know if it's right away. I guess it's within everybody hit back so hard that she took it down the image. And she issued an apology, and it was very straightforward. It was
a video apology, wasn't it?
Video apology, very straightforward. Said, "Hey,
Yeah.
I messed up. I shouldn't have done that. It was wrong. I asked you to please forgive me. It was a wrong thing to do. I did not expect it to do what it did, and I'm sorry." And she issued an apology, and so it hasn't ended though. It continues to go, and
she's lost some gigs.
Yeah, she lost the New Year's gig,
Yep.
so she's not doing the New Year's gig anymore. I think that there's
with Anderson Cooper.
Yeah, which poor Anderson.
He shouldn't have that gig either.
Anderson is probably rejoicing. He's like, "Oh
yeah,
yes,
thank goodness." That redhead was crazy.
No more nudity during New Year's. So she's lost she's losing, and she's still losing. And so right now she's in the middle of a campaign to try and stop. According to her, the White House family from attacking her. And so her lawyer, Lisa Bloom, came out.
Not just attacking, but destroying her.
Destroying her whole, destroying her whole life. So her lawyer, Lisa Bloom, she got a civil rights attorney.
Oh, wow.
And they held a press conference. And this
ACLU's backing her and everything.
Are they?
I don't know.
Oh, I knew that.
I don't know.
Okay, guys, don't take that one seriously. That was an onion move for Gabe. This is her attorney, Lisa Bloom, at the press conference.
Kathy is not only one of the funniest humans alive.
She is not that funny.
I'm sorry.
She's not funny at all.
I didn't know.
I'm sorry. What did you say?
Kathy is not only one of the funniest humans alive.
I thought she said that. That's no, honey. You guys need to issue another apology. That one that you have now for the head is one, but this one right here
for lying.
She has been a bold advocate for women, the LGBT community.
Wait, women's rights as in the ability to be able to kill the little
abortion.
woman in the womb?
Yeah.
That's
code
right?
for abortion.
Oh, okay.
People of color and
She represent you, David?
Not that I know. Of course, though, I stopped getting the black memos a long time ago.
Yeah,
so
right.
it's possible they sent one out saying Kathy Griffin is our new Martin Luther King. But I didn't get that.
Am I
one.
included in that?
No,
if you identify as a black.
If
Do you self-identify?
She probably
sunburn count as being.
During the campaign, Donald Trump said of a female reporter who had called him out on misogyny, quote, "She had blood coming out of her eyes. She had blood coming out of her wherever." Kathy did not forget that disgusting remark, for which Trump has never apologized.
So, just want to bring this up to you. Kathy has already apologized.
Right.
Right? So, the whole ordeal happened within the same day, I believe. She apologized. Right? And now at a press conference a week later.
Within the week.
Yeah. This is what's coming out. Now, if you apologize, like, it's done. Right? You're done.
It should
You're
be.
done.
Should be.
Now
she's going on the offensive now.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. Now they're going to the offensive.
Yeah.
What would it look like if his own insults were turned on him? Wearing a pussy bow blouse in a nod to his caught-on-tape bragging about grabbing women's genitals, she held up a Trump mask with fake blood coming out of the eyes and coming out of the wherever in full hyperbole with a stern look on her face. As she said in her social media posts accompanying the photo, quote, "I captioned this, there was blood coming out of his eyes, blood coming out of his wherever."
So, let's just stop for a second.
I like her animation.
I want to put this up. Yeah. So, let's say this. So, so she did the thing and she apologized. Now she's coming back to reestablish why she did the thing.
Yep,
right? And
she's explaining herself.
She's doing it. This is amazing to me. She's doing it because she thought Trump did something outrageous in his comment.
Yeah.
An outrageous comment from Trump. And she's like, you know what I should do? I should do that outrageous thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. Like the thing that you don't like. Yeah. Right. The thing that you said you shouldn't do that.
And she's trying to make a point.
She's trying to make a point out of something that she hates.
Yeah. That's
right.
Yep.
And she's coming back saying, I've apologized already, but let me go back and try and justify myself just a little bit, right?
Like many edgy works of artistic expression, the photo could be interpreted different ways, and Kathy was fine with that. But Kathy never imagined that it could be misinterpreted as a threat of violence.
Wait. You
misinterpreted by who? What standard?
You're holding a head with blood coming out. How else do you expect me to interpret
All she had
this?
to do is put a turban around her head.
That's the only thing she needed to do. That's it.
Yeah.
So what else? I mean, so if anybody else saw this image, and you don't have, come on, this is the internet. People don't have text to go with everything. If she put the text on the image, maybe okay.
Yeah.
But even so, that image is going to spread like wildfire. And she even says, "I was happy with people interpreting however they want to, but whenever the interpretation starts affecting my lifestyle, I don't like how you interpret it now."
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
But she apologized. She apologized already.
Against Trump. That was never what she intended. She has never threatened or committed an act of violence against anyone. Her life's work is to make people laugh.
She needs to retire.
Yeah, again.
And as soon as she learned that this is how it was being received, she was horrified.
So, you guys remember back in the day when Sarah Palin, remember Sarah Palin?
Yep.
Remember what she did? She decided to do a campaign and put, I can't remember who it was. She put I can't remember who it was, but she put the person who she wanted to target, she put them in the crosshairs
of a gun.
The crosshairs. It wasn't even a gun. It was just the crosshairs. That person's name, and basically said, I can't remember her title.
Take him down.
Take him down. We're coming after you.
Yeah.
The outcry that people had about that, because they said you are inciting and encouraging people who want to, inciting violence and encouraging people to take out governors or senators, or encouraging conservatives to come against people who they disagree with and disagree with liberals on. So how dare you? How dare you do that? Go ahead.
I think there's someone needs to write a book on the politics of an apology.
That's
right.
We're getting there. When you apologized already, you take your spanking.
Yeah,
right?
but there's a time actually when you should apologize like a good Christian, and there's a time where you should refuse to apologize.
Right. Yeah, but in a world where we've left Christ behind, apologies don't mean anything.
Yeah. What is she sorry for?
Yeah. Well, she's sorry that people took the image and was
she's not
offended
sorry
by it.
She's not sorry that it was wrong.
Yeah, had it gone the other way where people was like, "Oh, she's so bold to do this,"
right?
You know.
Well, you remember, and I think it was, this must have been 2 years ago, maybe 3. The Univision comedian, basically said Michelle Obama looked like a Planet of the Apes.
Yeah.
And he got fired.
Yeah, rightly so.
He lost his job, rightly so.
Yeah.
And basically, this is what Kathy did is like that on steroids.
Oh yeah, this is
visual. This is premeditated. I mean, his might have been premeditated too, but like this is going through and acting it out and going through all the motions and then talking about death.
Yeah.
And talking about nooses and talking about cutting people's heads off.
Yeah,
our president's heads off.
Yeah, I mean, there's. So you would say what she did was you would say that was wrong.
Yeah. I mean, Michelle, and she doesn't look like Planet of the Apes either.
Well, right, exactly.
Not only was it wrong, but it wasn't true.
I'm talking about Kathy. Do you think what Kathy did was wrong?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Cutting his head off and putting the blood everywhere.
Right.
Even though she's trying to say, but what he's doing, what his comment was horrible.
Right.
And so let's take his comment and show just how bad it was.
So the problem in all of this is there's no standard. You said this somewhere in there, Gabe. It's like, so what's the standard, guys?
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's getting more and more clownish and insane because there's no standard.
That's right.
Right. And so the apology again is based on what? It's based on the outcry.
Yeah. The punishment of it.
The punishment, right? It's not based on justice and truth and so on.
Yeah. Right.
So yeah, is there? I mean, you're asking the question: is it wrong? I don't know. I mean, I look at this. I'm like, yeah. On the one hand, I think we're supposed to honor a president.
Yep.
Christian. I mean, I think we should have that. But we've lost we've lost a standard. We've lost civility. And then when you have a president who actually does say and brag about things that are horrific, there's now in his case, actually, I think he actually apologized. I think he actually apologized for those comments.
Who, Trump?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
According to Lisa Bloom, the civil rights attorney,
she didn't.
She says,
not the blood comments,
right.
But he did, I think, apologize for the thing that got caught on tape.
Yes,
where he's talking
that one
about,
he did apologize for. Correct.
Yeah.
So
inappropriately grabbing people.
Right. So again, you got this back and forth. Like he apologized for that. Why don't you let it go?
Yeah, exactly.
What if? Let me ask this question. Sorry to interrupt you on this, but if Obama's president and then we go take pictures of a bunch of stuffed animal or stuffed babies with blood all sprinkled around, and we're holding their heads up, their shattered and crushed heads up, would we have a problem with that imagery?
The imagery of what? Say that again.
So
you said stuffed, because I don't think we have to do stuffed animals.
No, we don't.
We can show the blood, but this is something.
I'm just trying to make it as equal as possible, because that was just a stuffed head.
There is
of
a
Trump.
place in Scripture, in prophetic, in the prophets in particular, where God has them
for acting these things out.
Yeah, enact and act out His judgments that are coming.
Right.
And I mean, he's required to go around naked for a while.
Yeah.
Right. Elijah.
No.
Isaiah.
Try again.
Ezekiel.
Ezekiel.
My fault.
All the above.
He's got to cook his food over human feces.
Right. Yeah.
And then begs, please, not human feces. Fine, animal feces will do.
And God made him eat
so
his
he's got
food.
to eat the bread that he cooks over these coals.
Yeah.
I mean, it's grotesque.
Yeah.
And then what they actually describe. I mean, he's going to describe. I think is it Jeremiah? I think it might be Jeremiah in particular, who describes the whoring of Israel and Judah.
No, that's Ezekiel.
Are you sure about that?
Yes, Ezekiel 23.
Who wants a free T-shirt?
No. Stop giving away T-shirts,
okay.
David.
All right.
That's. I think that's Ezekiel 23. If I know where you're getting at, where the women are whoring, where Israelite women are whoring around, and they're whoring around the child. I believe it's the Chaldeans. Who and he describes them as men hung like donkeys and ejaculate like horses.
Yeah.
I believe that's Ezekiel 23.
Okay.
I don't remember exactly what it is.
Well, it's yeah.
So, that's what Google's for.
I want to hear a pastor preach on that text.
Yeah.
Right. If you go to a church, this is a little tangent right here. If you go to a church and your pastor won't preach on that text, then leave.
Yeah. Well, Mark just would preach on that text. I just don't know if you want to hear what he has to say about it.
I don't think he did.
Right. But my point though is that there is so big picture. The problem is we don't have a standard.
Yes.
And so when it's a mess, when you're wading through sewage,
Yeah.
It's a mess. And so, you were telling me earlier, I don't know who this Kathy person is, but I don't trust her at all.
You shouldn't.
And
she's not funny.
Okay, yeah. And anyways, that's the big picture. And then, but you have to come down with to remember that, okay, in the Bible, God does have his prophets mock wicked people.
Sure. Yep.
And oftentimes they're mocked by taking what they're doing and exaggerating it, sexualizing it, and showing just how disgusting it is.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think that is necessary. That's not something that is part of ordinary discourse. That's not normal, regular, day-to-day discourse. But nevertheless, it is something that God's people sometimes do.
That's the argument why I don't have a problem with the pictures at abortion clinics that they show the babies what's happening. Right. I think that's good to do. That's why I didn't have a problem with pictures of people being lynched in museums. People can see or even
this really happened.
Emmett Till's funeral open.
Right.
Or the Holocaust Museum. You have the images of the Jews,
naked bodies laying all over the place.
My problem ultimately with Kathy is the inconsistency of ultimately, and I think there's other ways to disagree with Trump. I think right now the beheading thing, holding the head up with blood coming out of it, I think you were trying to communicate something different. But even that said, she apologized. Let's say that I'm wrong about all of this, but she apologized.
Right.
You forgive her?
Well, yeah.
Of course.
Right.
She apologized. We've been forgiven much.
Right, but we don't live in that our culture has rejected
that. Right, they've rejected her.
They've rejected forgiveness.
No, you didn't do enough.
And all apologies are anymore is just power grabs.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's all apologies are. They're just
politics of an apology.
Yeah,
and the proof of that is the fact that she's turned this into her being the victim.
The message is clear. Criticize the president, lose your job. And that's what happened to Kathy and more. As a result of the First family's bullying of her and of those she does business with, Kathy has been vilified. She's been receiving a lot of death threats.
That's wrong.
She's had her personal website and her social media channels shut down.
That's probably not wrong. I mean, she's not funny. So, but I mean, the death threats, that's wrong.
Right.
You don't get to do that.
If it's true.
If it's true.
Right. She's using the term bullying. She's using all these PC buzzwords.
All of this is power grabbing.
Yeah.
All that's what this is. It's maneuvering, positioning for authority and power.
Yeah.
And if somebody, as a Christian, if somebody says sorry, it's over.
Yeah.
It's
how
done.
many times?
How many times? How many exactly?
70 times 70.
70 times 7. That's right.
Well, and to that power grabbing point, it's connected to that. They're trying to find their way to restore themselves to society. Like there's like an element of restoration in that power.
That's right. That's their form of justification and atonement.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. More when we come back on CrossPolitic. I'm still trying to get over this Kathy thing.
Yeah.
You say sorry, it's over, and they don't try and justify yourself afterwards. Well, this is why I did. No. You're forgiven.
Right.
But you know what? When you don't have Jesus, you got to keep trying.
You got to lawyer up.
You got to lawyer up. More CrossPolitic when we come back.
This is Cy Timbrunke with Answer Anyone Apologetics. I was at a conference a few years back where the lecture included some wonderful evidences for a young earth. After the conference, I was talking with the speaker, a good friend of mine, when we were approached by a medical doctor who was attending the conference. He told my friend that he loved the lecture, up to the point where he started talking about a young earth, because, he said, that's just nuts. I asked the doctor, do you believe that Jesus rose from the dead? He said, of course, I'm a Christian. Then I asked him, what in your medical profession could prove to you that a man who was dead for 3 days could come back to life? He said, nothing. I said, then why do you believe it? He said, because that's what the Bible says. I asked him, then why don't you believe what the Bible says about the age of the earth? He had no answer. You see, as Christians, our ultimate authority is the Word of God. Denying what the Bible says may grant you more credibility with the professed unbelievers of the world, but it dishonors the Lord who bought us. When we defend our faith, our job is not to make the message more palatable to goats, but to offer sheep food to those who our Lord is calling to himself, and we can rest assured that Jesus' sheep will hear his voice. For more apologetic answers, visit AnswerAnyone.com.
honor to give the commencement speech at Bucknell this year. But at Notre Dame, where Vice President Mike Pence was giving the commencement address, the ceremonies were interrupted when about 100 students turned their backs on Pence and walked out in protest. A few weeks earlier, U.S. Secretary of Education Betsy DeVos was booed while giving the commencement address at Bethune-Cookman University.
Wow.
I talked about this issue at Bucknell, and I wanted to share those thoughts here. American universities these days seem committed to every kind of diversity except intellectual diversity. Conservative voices and views, already a besieged minority, are being silenced entirely. The campus thought police have gone after serious conservative thinkers like Heather McDonald and Charles Murray, as well as firebrands like Milo Yiannopoulos and Ann Coulter. Some were disinvited, others booed, interrupted, and intimidated. It's strange that this is happening on college campuses that promise to give their undergraduates a liberal education. The word liberal in this context has nothing to do with today's partisan language, but refers instead to the Latin root, pertaining to liberty. And at the heart of the liberal tradition in the Western world has been freedom of speech. From the beginning, people understood that this meant protecting and listening to speech with which you disagreed.
Let's just stop right there. So
I didn't get any boos. I'm gonna give him some.
I don't have to listen to this, do I?
Who is this?
That was Fareed Zechariah, right? New York Times editor, CNN not correspondent. He talks on CNN regularly, and he's a well-known liberal, obviously, and he talked about some of this actually as commencement, as he mentioned, and I think we got to it all. And it's striking to me that when liberals point this out,
they get booed.
No, they don't get booed.
You don't think so?
It doesn't do anything.
Well, it has no power.
It has no effect.
Yeah.
And when conservatives point this out, the liberals laugh or say, "Why are you whining?" Or it doesn't. Conservatives can point out hypocrisy all they want about the liberals, right? Yeah. And even in some sense, conservatives can point out hypocrisy in liberals all they want, and no one listens because fundamentally they're both hypocritical, right?
They don't have any equity.
They don't have any equity to really point out hypocrisy. And if someone does, like Ron Paul, you get called crazy Uncle Paul.
Yep.
Right? You get maligned, and you get they throw names at you and all that stuff.
Right. It's also though because the liberals don't care.
Yeah, that's
so hypocrisy assumes a standard.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
And so the conservatives are like these little nannies.
Yeah. It's like atheists.
Conservatives are nannies. They're like, "Hey, you didn't spell that word right."
Yeah.
Right? You forgot to cross your T, and the liberals don't care.
Yeah.
Don't you tell me what to do?
They don't care about the rules.
Yep,
like they don't care. And so liberals sometimes come along and be like, "Oh, there is a little bit of hypocrisy here." But the liberal project doesn't care.
That's interesting.
They don't care.
So here is Bernie Sanders at his commencement speech at Brooklyn College.
We must never allow demagogues to divide us up by race, by religion, by national origin, by gender, or sexual orientation.
Said the
Black
demagogue.
And white,
hypocrite.
Latino, Asian American, Native American, Christian, Jew, Muslim, in every religion, straight or gay, male or female, we must stand together.
He forgot transracial.
Yeah.
This country
Transgender.
belongs to all of us.
So demagogue, of course, he doesn't have a problem if the liberals are demagogues in office. He doesn't have a problem with Christian bakers being sued to not follow their religion, their conscience. He doesn't have a problem with babies being demagogued in the womb.
Is that a verb?
Can we turn it into that?
We can do whatever we want to do. There's no rules. There's no
rules.
Standards.
There's no crossing T's.
You don't tell me to cross my T.
I'm gonna get demagogy on you.
What?
And so we have. It's just striking that
and notice too that of course what he means by this is not Christians actually being Christians or Muslims actually being Muslims. Right. He's talking about a castrated form of Christianity or a castrated form of Islam.
Yeah. It doesn't ever work like that, though.
Right.
That means that they're the ones that are not castrated. because they can control everything.
Oh, sure. Yeah, except for Bernie.
Yeah, except for Bernie.
Right. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to be the demigod, and I'm going to tell you, exactly the way you can practice your religion and the way you cannot.
It's not if there's someone in power, it's who's in power.
It's not whether there's a standard, it's what's the standard.
Right. And it's not if someone reigns, it's how they reign, right? If you serve, if you lord it over them versus if you serve. It's a whole he wants to take everything down. He wants to destroy, rhetorically destroy everything and then say, "Hey, I should be the demagogue, or I should my laws, my democracy should reign, my socialism should dictate what goes on." One more clip here.
I'm about done with you. You can't play no more clips. You can play Bernie Sanders.
This is all.
That's about enough, man.
This is all connected.
Oh.
Purpose is that feeling that you are a part of something bigger than yourself, that you are needed, and that you have something better ahead to work.
So this is Mark Zuckerberg speaking to Harvard graduates, the school he went to and dropped out of.
That's not a good look.
Okay.
Purpose is what creates true happiness.
So quit college.
And you are graduating at a time when this is especially important. When our parents graduated, that sense of purpose reliably came from your job, your church, your community. But today, technology and automation are eliminating many jobs. Membership in a lot of communities has been declining, and a lot of people are feeling disconnected and depressed and are trying to fill a void in their lives.
It's called Facebook, that's why.
As I've traveled around, I've sat with children in juvenile detention and opioid addicts who've told me that maybe they're...
Because Mark, has a real ministry there.
Yeah.
Would have turned out differently if they just had something to do, an after-school program or somewhere to go.
Yeah.
I've met factory workers who know their old jobs aren't coming back and are just trying to find their path ahead. For our society to keep moving forward, we have a generational challenge to not only create new jobs, but create a renewed sense of purpose.
And so he goes on to, I thought I was going to get there. It didn't. He goes on to talk about a universal, we need to figure out some sort of way to have a universal basic income.
I'm sorry.
So figure out.
That's where we're going to get purpose.
Yeah, that's where he's going.
So universal, not American.
One of the big purposes is we need to figure out how some sort of universal income. Like
throw money at it.
I don't. Yeah, throw money at it. The problem is people are bored. The problem is they don't have anything to do. The problem is their purpose is this.
Right. Of course, he's right.
I'm wondering.
Right, he's right.
Yeah, he's seeing some of the problems.
Right. Yeah. In terms of seeing the problem. Right. Yeah. I mean, we tell everybody that they're descended from apes and swamp gas.
I'm just wondering,
which Mark believes.
Right. And then we wonder why they think, life is worthless.
Yeah.
Everything's an accident.
There is no purpose, Mark.
Right. And so Mark believes, and he believes that we all are, evolutionary processes, right?
Yeah, this is where
and then he goes and talks like, hey, we need to find out how to go around those evolutionary processes and find purpose.
Let's just make a rule right now. Atheists don't get to ever talk about the word. The word purpose needs to be deleted from the atheist dictionary. There isn't any.
So I got an atheist friend, Damien. You know Damien.
I know Damien.
Be praying for Damien.
Be praying for Damien. We brought him up
here
Damien. Before. I chatted with him. Man, must have been a couple weeks ago. But he can't call anything evil or anything good. And every time he does, I've called him on it several times. Every time he's like, "Well, I'm borrowing your terminology, so we're all on the same page." Right? And I said, "But you."
At least he's honest.
But there's nothing evil and good in your life. He said, "But I need to borrow your terminology." I'm like, I get you need to borrow the Christian worldview to vote for anything. You need to borrow the Christian worldview to say abortion's okay or we should have taxes increased, all these things. You have to borrow some sort of basic truth about the world to be able to say there's anything right. And
is it true there's no such thing as evil or good?
Well, that he
can't even. No. How do you even answer that question?
He answers it as it's my preference.
I was gonna say it's got to come down to like just sensation.
The only way you can say something's wrong in my atheistic, individualistic worldview is I just don't prefer that.
Yeah.
So every time his name's Damien, and when I get in these arguments about abortion, he thinks abortion should be legal. Mother's choice, all that stuff.
Why?
Well, he can't say why.
Yeah.
He Ultimately, he can't say why. He just says mother's choice. And then I say, what about the kid's choice? And we go around. Everyone knows how the argument goes. But one of the things I bring to him, and he said, you can vote to have abortion overturned. If you get 51% to do it, then you did it. You beat me. You won.
Yeah.
It's all about 51% vote. And so I say, all right, well, I'd like to vote for anybody named Damien that they deserve the death penalty.
Yeah.
And he swallows that. He says, well, if you get 51%, then I'll try to fight against you guys, but you're dead, Damien.
I'm calling Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson. We're going to march around Damien's house because he doesn't have a problem with slavery.
Right, not really.
Not really.
He can't.
He thinks it was okay.
No.
Those guys weren't doing anything wrong.
Yeah.
It was just their preference.
Yep.
Majority, 51%.
That's what he says.
These guys, people who think like that are irrelevant.
Fundamentally, you have to say that about everything if you're an atheist, right?
Yeah.
It is my preference that Hitler was wrong.
Yeah.
And the thing is that it's a they're part of the problem.
Yeah, of course.
So that if everything is left up to personal preference and the whims of whatever democracy of might makes right, and if you get 51%, then you win. Then what is the impetus for change? What is the impetus for actually getting justice? What
justice? What is justice?
What is justice?
There is no justice.
Yeah, right. Let's let it go. It's meaningless anyways, and we're back to Zuckerberg, and we got to gin up purpose.
Yeah, I'm wondering where are all the people, the New World Order people that always just jump on every little thing and say, "Oh, this is a New World Order," or "That's a new." Where are they at when Zuckerberg's talking? He just said a universal form of income for everybody,
Yep.
And no one's like, "Wait, hold on, that sounds like a New World Order."
It's
to
like
me.
Trump's budget. What was his name of his budget again?
This is worse than Trump's budget.
Absolutely.
This is way worse because he's talking about universal world income.
Yeah, right.
And so everybody's looking, which is amazing. I wonder why he thinks we should even have one. Like, it's to give purpose to everybody. As an atheist, you don't have the right to say anybody deserves to have purpose, right? They're just doing what they want to do.
Because
why is he even noticing that people are unhappy?
You
know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
what is unhappiness?
What is unhappy?
Right? Because ultimately, purpose in his worldview means coercion. Fundamentally,
yeah.
Right. Every sort of atheistic worldview purpose has to root. The root of it that's driving it is coercion.
You know what? I'll believe Mark if you're listening to CrossPolitic Radio. If you're listening, I would believe you if you went and bought yourself a little island, and you said, you know what? Everybody who comes to this island, I will give you a universal income.
He could probably afford it.
Yeah, why not? He can.
Yeah.
Or there's little towns, there's little country towns. Have you driven over the West Coast?
Just
at
do
all?
a little.
Nevada.
Do a little study.
Yeah. If you want, let's do it. You do it for the next 30 years.
We'll see the results.
Yeah, exactly. I'll believe you when you say you put your money where your mouth is on that one.
The thing is here is also that we have to remember that a key part of living in God's world, being made in His image, and being fallen is that we live inconsistently.
Mm.
Yeah.
So what you guys are talking about is the logical inconsistency, the logical irrationality, insanity of these stances, right? To say, I care about purpose, even though I believe that the world is purposeless, ultimately. Now, the fact of the matter is that Mark Zuckerberg is made in the image of God. He lives in God's world, and he gets up every morning by the grace of God.
Yeah.
Right? Jesus is holding him together. Right?
That's right.
Every atom in his body is held together by the grace of God. And he has creativity from God. He has compassion from God.
That's right.
He loves certain things because God made them and because he's made by God to love them.
Yeah.
He loves the tastes of things and the beauty of things, and he loves people even because he's made in God's image, and
That's
because
right.
those other people are made in God's image. And so the screaming insanity, of course, includes that, so that there are certain contradictions in his world, right? But nevertheless, I think that we can still say, like, so, how does he see this? Well, he sees this because he's made in the image of God, right? Mm-hmm. And to the extent that he denies realities that God has made in the world and denies the reality ultimately of Christ or his word, does Mark have any religious affiliation?
I don't know. I know he married an Asian woman. There might be some sort of connection.
You just did this a wand. You try to rise out of wand.
No.
Look at you.
Well, there might be some sort of Buddhism or something connected to him. I don't know.
I mean, that'd be interesting to know. I mean, because I just don't know enough about him. But nevertheless, I mean, he lives in God's world.
Yeah.
Everybody lives in God's world, and that's part of the reason why I think evolutionists and liberals and whatever, they're able to do what they do is because fundamentally deep down inside, they know they live in God's world.
That's right.
They know the truth and they suppress the truth and unrighteousness. They don't want to be accountable to God. They don't want to fear God. But they nevertheless are, as our friend Damien is doing, having to borrow every day from the reality that God actually made.
Living in that contradiction.
You can't say I'm gonna check out and pass on gravity today. I'm gonna pass on math.
You can say that.
Right. But it doesn't last long.
That's right.
I'm gonna check out with mathematics. I'm not gonna do. I'm not gonna go
check out on English.
Right. Whatever.
I'm not gonna use words.
Now, but of course we are creeping up to that very insanity when we say things like boys are not boys and girls are not girls.
That's right.
And whatever, redefining words to mean whatever I want them to mean,
right.
And so forth. I mean, you don't use the word man because that is very oppressive and bullying.
Patriarchal.
Yeah. But the fact of the matter is that they live in God's world. They still live in God's world, and they know that by God's common grace, that he can start Facebook.
Yeah.
Right. He can build this, what is it, $100 billion, whatever, $1 trillion. I don't know what it is.
Not trillion. Yeah, I'm sure it's billion.
Whatever. But this multi-billion-dollar company. Why? Because of the gifts of God.
Yeah.
And because of the common grace of God.
Right. And he's noticing that there should be something to take care of the world, right? He's noticing, man, like the world needs some sort of saving.
Right. And he knows that people really feel despair.
What he needs to know is that God has already put in a plan to save the world.
Right.
So he needs to actually repent, jump on board with that plan, preach the gospel. And as we love our neighbors, right? Like that's the universal plan. And don't forget too, God put in a plan. You don't work, you don't eat. Right. And there's a reason for that.
Well, that goes back again to the materialism at the root of Darwinism, of course, is just this idea that it's just stuff bumping against other stuff.
Yeah.
And so if you get the right kind of stuff, or like, money, for example, it'll fix stuff. Because that's how we got here, with stuff bumping up against stuff, right? And that's,
randomly.
And then that's how you get kind of cool stuff, right? But the fact of the matter is, of course, no, that's not how you got it. You got it by the word of God.
That's right.
Right? God spoke light into existence. God spoke his son into existence. And God is in the process of re-speaking the whole universe into existence.
Amen.
Through the gospel. And so but that's supernatural. It's through men and women. It's through created things. But fundamentally, it's the supernatural power of God working through the gospel proclaimed, through real forgiveness of sins, through grace, through knowing God. And that's not stuff bumping against stuff.
No,
that's the
word.
That's the living word, the living and active word,
right. Amen.
Remaking human beings into the image and likeness of Jesus.
Yeah.
And let the church say,
Amen.
Until next week, love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. Go fight, laugh, and feast. This is CrossPolitic.